I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. You're sitting in a hospital room. The lights are dim. Outside the window, the world is still moving. Cars passing, kids laughing, someone's dog barking down the street. And in that bed, you are not thinking about the meetings you attended, the emails you answered, or the arguments you won. You are thinking about the moments you let slip through your fingers, the trip you kept postponing, the grandchild you were too busy to call, the dream you buried under a pile of not yet. Now here's the question I want to ask you today. Not when you're in that hospital bed, but right now, while you still have breath in your lungs and time on your hands. Are you wasting your life? Now I would love you to watch till the very end of this video. I promise it will all make a lot of sense. I will divide this into sections. So here we go. Section 1, the wake up. I know that's a hard question. Maybe even a little uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is where real living begins. I remember a specific afternoon. I was sitting in my living room, flipping through old photographs, when I came across a picture of myself at 35, standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, backpack on my shoulder, grinning like I owned the world. And I thought to myself, when did I stop being that person? Not because of anything dramatic. No tragedy. No crisis. Just slowly, quietly, I had let life become a routine. Wake up, go through the motions, go to sleep, repeat. It hit me like a freight train. Dr. Carl Pillemer, a gerontologist at Cornell University, spent years interviewing over 1,500 Americans over the age of 65 for his book 30 Lessons for Living. And you know what those elders said haunted them most? They couldn't believe how much time people waste on petty fights, resentments, and worry, not the big failures, the small daily surrenders. Think about that. The wisest people among us, people in their 70s, 80s, 90s, look back over entire lifetimes and shook their heads not at the bold choices they made, but at the years they spent afraid to make any choice at all. Research published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that Americans' biggest regrets fall into 6 categories: education, career, romance, parenting, self-improvement, and leisure. But here's what's even more revealing. The regrets that sting the longest are not the things we did. They are the things we didn't do, the conversations we never had, the risks we never took, the love we held back. So here is your very first challenge, and I want you to do this today, not tomorrow. Get a piece of paper. Write down 3 things you've been putting off for someday. A phone call to someone you've been avoiding, a place you've always wanted to visit, a dream that's been sitting on a shelf collecting dust. Write them down. Look at them, because the life you want is waiting on the other side of that list. Section 2, the science of a wasted life. Now, I want to talk to you about something that goes deeper than motivation. I want to talk about what wasting your life actually does to your body. This isn't just philosophy. This is biology. Researchers at Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health studied nearly 7,000 Americans over the age of 50. A 2019 study published in JAMA Network Open found that among this group, those who scored highest on a measure of life purpose were significantly less likely to die during the 4-year study period, and less likely to die from heart and circulatory conditions compared to those who scored lower. Let me say that again in plain English. Having a reason to get up in the morning can literally save your life. Eric Kim of Harvard School of Public Health found that for every meaningful increase in a person's sense of purpose, they were 13 to 14% less likely to experience physical declines in grip strength and walking speed. 2 of the primary indicators doctors used to measure how fast we are aging. Purpose doesn't just feed the soul. It strengthens the body. And the opposite is equally true. Psychologist Carsten Rosch has found that when people ruminate on regrets without any hope of repairing them, they begin to show signs of depression, and they become more vulnerable to disease. Holding on to a wasted life, or the fear that your life has been wasted, is not just emotionally painful, it is medically dangerous. I think about my friend Margaret. She retired at 62 after 30 years in accounting. She had done everything right on paper, saved her money, raised 2 kids, kept her nose down and worked hard. But when she retired, she just stopped. She watched television. She declined invitations. She told herself she was resting. Within 2 years, she told me she felt like she was disappearing. Margaret's story is not unusual. A major survey by Talker Research found that 4% of baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964, say their biggest regret is not spending more time with family and friends. And nearly a third say they regret not chasing their dreams. Margaret eventually joined a community garden, then a book club. Then she started teaching basic budgeting at her local library for free, passing on 30 years of financial wisdom to young families who desperately needed it. She told me last year it was the most alive she had felt in decades. That is what I'm talking about. Section 3. The thief you don't recognize. But here's where I want to get very honest with you, because I think there's a thief in most of our lives, and we don't even recognize it for what it is. The thief's name is worry. The elders Carl Pillimer interviewed were deeply regretful about the weeks and months they spent on what they called mindless, self-destructive worrying. Time they said they desperately wish they could have back. I can personally testify to this. There was a stretch of about 3 years in my life where I spent so much mental energy worrying about things that never happened. What people thought of me, whether my savings were enough, whether I had made the right choices decades ago, that I essentially wasn't present for my own life. My kids were growing up, my marriage needed tending, sunsets were happening, dinners were being shared, and I was mentally somewhere else entirely, fighting battles that only existed in my head. Dr. Eric Zilmer, a neuropsychologist at Drexel University, describes regret and chronic worry as a kind of cognitive weight, like carrying an unwanted backpack filled with I should have and if only I had. The longer you carry it, the heavier it gets, and the less energy you have for the life that is actually in front of you. The Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies on human happiness ever conducted, followed hundreds of men for over 80 years. Its updated findings, published in the 2023 book The Good Life by Dr. Robert Waldinger and Dr. Mark Schultz, reaffirm that emotional intelligence, particularly the ability to navigate hardship and grow through it rather than be consumed by it, is one of the defining factors between a life well-lived and one that simply passes by. Here is your second challenge, and this one takes courage. Think of one relationship in your life that needs attention right now. A child you haven't truly talked to, a sibling you've been cold with, a friend you've been meaning to check on. The elders and Pillimer's research warn clearly. Don't wait to express gratitude, ask for forgiveness, or say what's on your mind, because one day that person will no longer be here to receive it. Pick up the phone. Send a message. Show up at the door. Do it this week. Don't let another month become another year. Section 4, it's not too late. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. You might be sitting there saying, I'm already in my 50s, 60s, maybe beyond. Is it really not too late? And I want to answer that question with the fullness it deserves. No, it is absolutely, unequivocally not too late. In fact, science suggests that in some ways, this is exactly the right time. The Harvard Grant study found that between the ages of 50 and 75, people were 4 times more likely to use emotionally mature and intelligent coping strategies than they were in their younger years. You are not less capable now. In many ways, you are more capable, more self-aware, more patient, more anchored in what actually matters. Research published in Scientific American found that unlike younger people who tend to fixate on their regrets, healthy older adults generally learn not to waste time wallowing in remorse about circumstances they cannot change. That's not resignation. That's wisdom. And wisdom, when you act on it, becomes transformation. I think of Colonel Harlan Sanders, who didn't franchise Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was 65 years old. I think of Laura Ingalls Wilder, who published the first Little House on the Prairie book at age 65. I think of Grandma Moses, who didn't begin painting until she was 78, and who went on to become one of America's most celebrated folk artists. These were not extraordinary people with extraordinary circumstances. They were ordinary people who refused to treat their remaining years as a waiting room. Research from Harvard Health has also found that among adults 50 and older, those who volunteered more than 100 hours a year reported less loneliness, more positive emotions, greater optimism, and a deeper sense of purpose than those who did not. And they were actually less likely to die or develop physical limitations over the same period. 100 hours a year is less than 2 hours a week. 2 hours a week can change the trajectory of your life. Section 5, the final truth. Here is what I want to leave you with. Life is not measured in years. It is measured in moments of genuine connection, in the courage to try, in the generosity to give, and in the willingness to show up fully, not just for others, but for yourself. Research on life regret consistently finds that the individuals who fare best are those who either actively change the circumstances that led to their regret, or who fully accept what they cannot change and redirect their energy toward what is still possible. Both of those paths are open to you today. You are not your past. You are not your missed opportunities. You are not the version of yourself who played it safe or stayed too small or said yes when you meant no and no when you meant yes. You are the person sitting here, right now, still breathing, still thinking, still feeling, which means you are still choosing. Every single day is a fresh answer to the question, am I going to waste this? So here is your third and final challenge. I want you to do this before you go to sleep tonight. Write down the answer to this question. If I knew I only had 5 good, healthy years left, what would I stop doing and what would I start? Don't overthink it. Don't edit yourself. Just write honestly. And then, and this is the most important part, take one action toward that answer. This week, not next month, not when the kids are settled, not when the finances feel right. This week. Because here's the truth that the research, the elders, and if I'm honest, my own life, have all been pointing to. The greatest waste is not money poorly spent or time poorly managed. The greatest waste is a life half lived by someone who is fully capable of living it whole. You still have time. Don't waste it. And if you found this helpful, please subscribe and comment the city you are watching from. I love you all.